Hello, everyone. So, welcome, dear listeners, to the Mind of Sai Marie. Tonight, we're doing out of the Encyclopedia of History. In this episode, we're going to crack open the great book encyclopedia and reveal the wild true stories behind a classic. As always, I'm your host, Sai Marie. And as both a person of both the Gothic persuasion and a fellow author, tonight I am happy that we are diving into a truly morbid and magnificent tale. Tonight, we'll pull a masterpiece right out of the chilling heart of the Victorian era, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which, side note, has everybody watched Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein on Netflix yet? I will be putting up my reviews on my Letterboxd and other review sites as soon as I get done getting this episode all polished up and straight away. But yes, tune into that because it is now available and definitely looking so forward to it. So, back to the main topic. We all know the phrase Jekyll and Hyde. It's an instantaneous shorthand for a split personality, for the war between good and evil inside one human soul. But the story of how this book came to be is arguably more terrifying, more intense, and more gothic than the tale itself, believe it or not. Which, by the way, shout out to the Robert De Niro version of Frankenstein from the 90s, one of my favorites. Definitely a good one. And also to that Mary Riley with Malkovich and Julia Roberts. Yeah, John Malkovich and Julia Roberts, Mary Riley. Those two. Definitely check them out with regard to this. And back to what I was saying. Because the true genesis of this novel includes tuberculosis, a nightmare, 9 days of fevered writing, an angry wife, and possibly even cocaine, let's go back to September 1885. The author, Robert Louis Stevenson, is 35 years old and quite literally dying. He has tuberculosis since his teens, a brutal disease that has caused him to cough up blood, waste away, and was considered incurable. He was confined to his bed, forbidden even to speak for fear of triggering a hemorrhage, and one of the few medications doctors prescribed for his hemorrhaging lungs in the 1880s? Cocaine. Yes, the drug was considered a miracle cure, a vessel constrictor to stop the bleeding. Whether he was actively using it is still debated by historians, but the fact remains that Stevenson was fevered, ravaged by disease, and possibly medicated, definitely at the edge of life when he had the nightmare that changed literature forever. He woke up screaming. His wife Fanny rushed to his side. He was shouting about transformations and monsters. As soon as he snapped awake, Stevenson was furious at her. "Why did you wake me?" he shouted. "I was dreaming a fine boogie tale." That boogie tale had given him 3 vivid scenes: a man drinking a potion, the transformation into a monster, and the monster committing terrible acts. He ignored doctor's orders, got out of bed, and started writing. His stepson, Lloyd Osborne, was a witness to the frenzy. He said Louis came downstairs in a fever, read nearly half the book aloud, and then was away again busy writing. The first draft took 3 days. 3 days, 72 hours, an entire 30,000-word novella written while coughing blood. He handed the manuscript to Fanny, and here's where the story takes a truly destructive turn. Fanny hated it. Not because it was bad writing, but because she felt he'd written it as a simple horror thriller about a man becoming a monster. She saw the deeper truth. It needed a moral allegory about the duality of humanity. "You've written it wrong," she told him. "This should be a moral tale, not just a thriller." Stevenson was crushed. He'd poured every last drop of his energy into this, but he trusted Fanny's literary judgment, so in a shocking act of artistic sacrifice, he took the entire manuscript, all 3 days of fevered work, walked to the fireplace, and burned it. He burned every single page. "If I don't destroy it," he said, "I'll be tempted to salvage parts of it, and I need to start fresh." And then, still stuck, still hemorrhaging, he sat down and rewrote the entire novel, this time infusing the deeper moral questions Fanny insisted upon. He finished the second draft in 6 more days. 9 days, that is the timeline for one of the most famous horror stories ever written. A complete rewrite by hand by a man whose lungs were failing. When it was published in January 1886, it was an instant sensation. The book sold 40,000 copies in Britain within 6 months. The phrase Jekyll and Hyde immediately entered our permanent vocabulary. This is a story about the creative fire that cannot be extinguished, even by death itself. Stevenson died a few years later in Samoa, far from the cold world that nearly killed him, but his most famous work, Born of a Nightmare, A Fierce Editor, and 9 Fevered Days, lives on. Now, as promised, to truly kick off your Saturday and satisfy that Gothic craving, I have a quick read aloud. This is a piece of flash fiction, less than 500 words, to give you a little campfire spookiness and a quick hit of November chill. So get cozy, turn down the lights, and let's set the scene for a short story I call Perpetua Black Tide. Perpetua Black Tide by Sai Marie Johnson. That's me. It was eerie, and yet Maria's mind couldn't shake it. The caption for the travel blog had already been half written in her head. Thor's Well, Oregon's most misleadingly named natural landmark. Nothing divine, just terrifying geology. It was just the sort of title she thrived on, loved even. Anything with the raw, cold, wet truth of the place. She had driven intently for 3 hours south from Florence, desperate for a shot that fully captured the violence without resorting to cliché. The basalt shelf at Cape Perpetua was slick with spray, a permanent sheen of winter, even on this clear November afternoon. She set her tripod close to the edge, ignoring the distant ropes. Her only go was to get close and prove the danger was merely physics. The well inhaled, and then the world paused. A deep quiet, and the vast circular drain pipe began pulling the foamy brine into a churning dark void. The sound, then, was a mournful deep sucking, like a profound melancholy that brought her strange vibration to Maria's chest. Click. Oh, for the money shot. She captured the retreating water. Next came the spout. But, as the drain bottomed out, Maria froze. The skeptic's iron rule played through her mind then. Believe the lens, not the eye. Snapped. Standing there on the wet, slippery base of the hole, draped in strands of red algae and black bull kelp, was a horse. Impossibly thin, its dark frame too delicate for the crushing weight of the water it defied. It was completely still, head lowered, as though enduring some unending penance. Its eyes were 2 pieces of reflective chipped quartz. A glitch in the light, a trick of the foam. She quickly adjusted her focus, trying to prove the shape was driftwood. It wasn't. It was equine. It was suffering. It lifted its head. No sound came from its mouth. But Maria felt a deep, sickening wave of grief wash over her, a desperate need to leap down, to touch it, and to pull it out of its watery prison. She understood, in a cold, electric flash of certainty, that the horse was the source of the well's mournful sound. It wasn't geology. It was sorrow. She reached her hand out toward the well, not for a picture, but to offer comfort. Then, somehow, the name of the creature, however impossible, came into her mind. The Kelpie didn't move. But as the next thunderous wave crashed against the shelf, it turned its quartz eyes directly onto her. The well exploded. It was not just water. It was a column of cold, saline energy mixed with the beast's black, kelp-strewn form. The force was sudden and absolute. It didn't push her back. It pulled her forward, over the slick edge. Her last thought, as the dark water swallowed her camera and her skepticism, was the new terrifying caption. It wasn't physics. It was hungry. The end. And so, with that, dear listeners, I hope you have a wonderfully spooky Saturday, made better by the knowledge that some of the greatest literature ever written was forged in fever and fire. Thank you for tuning in to this one out of the Encyclopedia of History. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe, leave a comment with your favorite Gothic tale, and consider supporting the newsletter here on Substack, saimarie.substack, or substack.com/@ Sai Marie. That's SAIMARIE. And it is your support that keeps the dictionary open and the microphone on. So make sure you join in the next time. Until then, stay curious and be careful of the boogie tales that lurk in the dark. Have a great night.